Hello, everyone. Thank you for letting me spend some time with you today. Uh, just a reminder, those like buttons, share buttons, notifications, all those good things make it easier for people to find us, just like you did. If you happen to be listening to the audio only, you might want to check out the video, Rumble and YouTube. So they're there for hopefully your convenience. I do have a face for radio, so you might want to stick with the audio. As we watch the news today, we often get the how things are happening, what's going on. We get the when, right? That part's easy. Then we get all the talking heads that come on. They share their opinions. Sometimes they know what they're talking about. Sometimes they don't. But practically no one is able to grasp that realization of the why these things are happening. And sometimes when we know the why, we are better able and better equipped to understand the how and sometimes the when, right? And I was reminded the other day by a couple of people that I did not include that in the last episode, and I do apologize. You see, when we're living the way we're designed to live, we develop a different point of view than the people who don't. The people who don't care about God are going to live much differently than the people who do, right? And that just makes sense. What I mean is simply this. By living the way the Creator designed us to give, by living according to His instructions, it gives us a completely different way to view the world around us. And having that different point of view changes the way that we react to the events that take place close to us, far away from us, right? Because we're going to see it differently. For instance, if we see someone who is hurting, we don't turn our heads and walk away. We show compassion, we show care, we show love. When we see someone who's happy, we celebrate with them, right? When we see somebody who really needs our help, we don't say to ourselves, somebody's going to come along. Somebody will come along and give you a hand. No, we offer what we're able to do. And sometimes that's not the help that someone might want. It's the help they need. Big difference. When we see something that we think is good, we're joyful. And when we see something that's evil, we overcome that with good, right? When we see war, we pray. It's that simple. And in all these things, good and evil, a lot of times we are able to look past what's right in front of us, the things that are happening right now, and we look back to find out the why, right? I've used this example hundreds and hundreds of times. Someone who is of completely normal weight for their height does not go to bed one night and wake up automatically, 500 pounds too heavy tomorrow morning. It's just not going to happen. The why that happens, you have to look back and say, I made some very poor health choices in my past, right? That's the why it happens. And that's what I kind of want to look at in a way. You see, when things happen, when good things happen, right? When good things bring us joy, when things that we want to celebrate happen, we say, oh, it's a blessing from our Creator. It's a blessing from God. He's raining blessings down on us. Oh, it's wonderful. And then when we see evil, it's like, what brought this on? What did we do? What caused this to happen? And sometimes when we see evil, sometimes we have to look deeper, and we delve into those not hidden places. No, they're not really hidden. They're just stored away. They're put away. And you only go there when you absolutely have to. You only go there when you absolutely have to. And sometimes that evil is found on top, and sometimes you have to dig deeper. Sometimes you have to know what you're looking at. Sometimes you have to know what you're looking for. Sometimes you have to know why it's not there. Because sometimes what you might be digging for, what you think you're digging for, might not be what you're supposed to be looking for, right? Think about it this way. In the entire account of the Exodus, for example, the name of the Pharaoh of that time is not given. He's simply giving the title Pharaoh. And this is because in the ancient Hebrew culture, when someone is truly evil and wicked, their name is not to be remembered. So if you're digging for the Pharaoh's name, you're not going to find it in the Bible. Solomon in Proverbs 10:7, the memory of the righteous is a blessing, but the name of the wicked will rot. They will never be mentioned again. Now, before Solomon wrote that, his father David wrote in Psalms 9:5-6, you have rebuked the nations, you have destroyed the wicked, you have erased their name forever and ever. The enemy has come to eternal ruin, and you have uprooted their cities. The very memory of them has vanished. Now, we remember the names of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? But the names of the wicked people who lived in those cities, they have long, long since been forgotten. We learn about the atrocities that have happened throughout history. But quite often, the names of the people who committed them are never mentioned. And there's a reason for that. We don't need to mention their names. We just need to know what happened and put it in those stored away places that we don't like to visit. And then when something happens and we start digging, it's like, oh, we see this now. This is why. This was the precursor to something else. This is how this occurred. Now, some of you might be saying, well, there's bad people mentioned in the Bible. And yes, there are. Yes, there are. This is Purim, right? So look at Haman. Now, he tried to eliminate the Jews, but Haman failed. And even today, when his name is spoken, it is often followed very quickly by the boos and the hisses. You know, it says his name is a disgrace. His name is no longer welcome here. But we remember him not because he tried to eliminate the Jews. They remember him because he failed. And he failed miserably. His evil plan failed miserably. More recently, Hitler, right? His name's used often these days, sometimes never in a good way. Never in a good way. Why are these names not forgotten? Why are they not rotting in history? Well, the answer is kind of simple. They failed. It didn't happen. Now, Pharaoh, on the other hand, the Pharaoh of the Exodus, well, he failed, but not really. You see, the people thought they wanted to stay in Egypt. But the Pharaoh of that time brought some things on the people that just shouldn't have happened. Brought some things on himself, too, and all the Egyptians. He eventually failed because evil will never triumph. Did they cause All of these people, did they cause a great deal of heartache and hardship? Yeah, of course they did. But their overall plan was defeated. And Haman, Hitler, they're not remembered so much for what they did. They're remembered for being a complete failure, which is a good thing from our perspective, right? That's a good thing from our perspective. Now, there are some in the world today who would say, oh, they weren't such bad folks. They weren't such bad folks. But their names are never, ever, ever used in any kind of a positive context. They were failures for one major reason. One reason. Evil will never be allowed to defeat good. Never. Not going to happen. Their names will never be a blessing. They will only be a curse. It's that simple. If we want to understand why something's taking place, sometimes we have to visit those dark places we don't want to go. And sometimes we find things out we don't want to find out because it's going to change the things we thought that we knew. Did you know that? The events occurring in the Middle East right now, there's a lot of these folks. There's a lot of these folks who are giving their opinion about why this is taking place, and they have not looked past 1947. They've not looked farther back than 1947. There's a lot of these self-proclaimed prophets who are coming out with, oh, this fits here and this fits there, and I told you it was going to happen. Well, I'll just leave that right there. I could say an awful lot about those folks, but I won't. I think you know my opinion of them. Living the way we're designed to live helps us understand the why. Because our point of view becomes more in line or in tune with the way that our Creator views his creation. And we might not be able to have his thoughts, but we're going to have a better understanding of why he allows these things to happen than the people who don't. Right? If they're not living proper, if they're not living according to his instructions, if they're not living the way they're designed to live, they're not going to have a clue. And it's obvious. It's obvious. I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say this. Something the modern church is guilty of is focusing too heavily on the future. They focus too heavily on the future. You know that, oh, Jesus is coming. Isn't that wonderful? Oh, don't you want to go to heaven when you die? And they're absolutely terrible about teaching you how to live right now in the present because they don't remember the past. They want to break things down into simple little categories, and it's not always that simple. Sometimes you have to understand the history, and you have to look in those dark places to see the why things are happening today. Because there is a tremendous amount of evil in the world today, but that's okay. It has to happen. It has to happen. If we simply look toward the future without understanding how we are to live today, you're not going to understand the why things are happening, and you're going to be afraid. You're going to worry. And I've heard this from folks who I know are faithful. Oh, I'm in prayer about this because I'm just so upset and so concerned and so worried. I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of that. The Almighty says, don't be afraid. And living the way we're designed to live helps us understand why these things have to happen, why these things are going on. And it helps us have courage. It helps us have hope. It helps us show others that you don't have to be afraid. You're not living in fear. You're not living in some fantasy world. You're living in the reality that history is the why things happen now. The players, the events, all of that. It all comes together when you understand the why. You get to understand the how. That's just something to think about until next time. Understanding the why helps us understand the how. Understanding history, learning from history, gives us tremendous insight into the events around the world, in our homes, in our families, and in ourselves. Think about that until next time. And until then, I do wish you many, many blessings, everyone.